there are certain existential issues coming up. Yeah. I'm a finite entity. I have to seek knowledge, happiness, etc. And there is a sense of isolation. Because the moment you are a finite entity, each person becomes an island. At the most, you can build bridges across in terms of effective communication, etc. That doesn't take away your sense of isolation. You can be happily married, if there is something like that. You can have a family, everything. And right in the midst of them, you can feel lonely. Why? You put forward an idea which is very important for you, nobody else understands it. That's enough. That's enough to make you feel isolated and lonely right there in the midst of a loving family. So these type of issues are always there. Purposelessness in life. What is my purpose? These are questions we all asked as teenagers. What am I here for? And then those questions got buried under the problems of living. Why? Because everybody is running to achieve certain things. You also joined that rat race. Achieve. Nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. But at the end of it, what is your purpose? At the end of it, what is left with? Because we all want to leave some trace behind. At the most we can leave behind is 2 kids. Maximum. Who may or may not remember you. You think all your descendants will remember you? In that movie Troy, there's a very interesting scene of the greatest warrior of the day, Achilles, going and meeting his mother, trying to decide, should he join this war for Troy or not? And his mother tells him something very beautiful. She's supposed to be a goddess, okay? Tells him something very beautiful. He says, if you don't go to Troy, you will find love, you will find a beautiful girl, you will have children who will remember you, and their children will remember you, and so will their children, grandchildren. But after that you will be forgotten. But if you go to Troy, your name shall live forever, but I will not see you again, because your fame and your doom walks together. Okay, let us take it. Name will live forever. Of course, we all talk about Achilles. Imagine, yes, Indian religious teacher, spiritual teacher, talking about Achilles instead of Rama and Lakshmana. Of course he is remembered. Yeah, but the whole world is wondering whether that is a myth. The whole story of Troy is a myth of Homer's creation, or did it really happen? Because at the end of the day, what happens? Ram naam satya hai. Why? Ye jo hai asatya hai. The body you are carrying around is asatya. So what is your purpose? You lived, you had your achievement. One blink in the eye of time, you're gone. Achievements forgotten. You know who was for example, yesterday was Independence Day, the first person to really demand for independent India? Even when the Indian National Congress was only demanding better self-governance, etc. People may say Tilak. Even before Tilak, when Tilak was but a youngster, see, forgotten, unknown, unsung. He did that in 1906, just over 100 years ago. He was considered the most dangerous man in India. The British considered him the most dangerous man in India. Huh? Sri Aurobindo. First person to declare independence. Demand for independent India. No, Sri Aurobindo. Forgotten. In less than 100 years of independence, unsung, forgotten. Of course, some families may have contributed to that forgetting. That's a different matter. That's a different matter. But the fact remains. Yeah. Just imagine, he was supposed to be a religious teacher, a spiritual teacher. And he was considered the most dangerous man in India by the British. Forgotten.
Savitri was hurt twice by the British.
Yeah. But can you see that all your achievements, what is it? I did so much, I achieved so much. Gone. What's the purpose of doing all this? It is natural to feel a sense of purposelessness. I mean, if a leader's life like that can be like that, what about your life and my life? Yeah. I mean, take all our history, recent history. I'm not talking of ancient history. Recent history. Churchill, the man who led England to victory in World War II. Without him, Britain would have been on his knees, I'm telling you. Yeah, he would have gone. If you're a student of warfare, you will know that very well. If there was no Churchill in England, England would have fallen. And what did he do after the war? Voted him out. Purposeless. Your life and my life is what? Let us take, since predominantly here I see a lot of South Indians. The South Indian gentleman comes from a village in South to Bombay. Internal migration. Picks up a job. Has a marriage. Has kids. And he decides, I have two children. For each of them I'll build a flat in Bombay. Big achievement for him. Because he came with $5 in his pocket. Yeah, with $5 in his pocket those days. He came from Kumbakonam or from Wayanad. That is recognizable now by people. I was about to say Palghat, but I was not sure how much Palghat will be, people remember. And he came and he ended up officer level material, but got a clerical job and started with that. I'm telling the story of all our fathers, okay? They were like that. Achieved. Okay. 2 kids, 2 flats for each other. He feels he has done an achievement. Both the kids migrate. One to USA, other to Australia. Now he's wondering, ye flat kaun dekhega abhi? They think that we are not interested in coming back to India. Worse, my father's state. I become a sadhu. Abhi kya karega? Whom is he going to leave it to? Are you getting the idea? Life becomes what? Purposeless. He educated his child, made him an MBA, things like that, thinking that guy will achieve something. Guy goes and joins politics. Yeah. Or starts his own NGO, looking after street dogs. मेरा बेटा क्या कर रहा है? कुत्ता पाल रहा है. ये क्या ये? If the guy feels his life has been bereft of purpose, can you blame him? Or forget it. His son also became an achiever. Meaning what? Good job, good marriage, good kids, and the best case scenario. Then, same story, na? I mean, what way has the story differed? The father would tell the son, in my days, you could eat a meal in 5 paise. And the son tells the grandson, in my days, you could eat a thali for $5. Our time. When we were in the 70s. Farak kya ho gaya in the story? And in both cases, the child turns around and says, that is your time, now it is different. Both cases, we said the same thing, the kid still has the same thing. And probably his kids will tell the same thing. What way have we changed? He started a business, nobody used to look after it. Someone whom I know very well, very nice business, going well, this, that, etc. And good boy, he's got a good son, everything. But this business he is not interested in. So now he's closing down the business. So I got such a nice office. What do I do with that? Because it's an old rent, okay? Old rent. So you can't sell it, you can't sublet it, you can't. So all this nice place he doesn't want to use. Therefore, even if things are going well, like his life, things have gone very well. Even if things have gone very well, if you look at the big picture, there's a sense of purposelessness, isolation, loneliness. In short, samsara. This is what is samsara. Traditionally said as birth and death because you are helpless anyway. Nobody consulted you way before you are born. Even if you want to die, you won't die. Why? Time is not at all. Yeah. This guy tried to commit suicide. Went up to the 15th floor of his building and jumped. But he had forgotten. They were doing some repair jobs in the building and there was a net, safety net for the workers put below. Now there is a case against him for attempted suicide. No choice. This guy, death is awaiting him, he doesn't want to go. Another case. So, Birth and death was put only to indicate your helplessness with respect to it. That's all. But this is samsara. Your sense of purposelessness and existential issues, your sense of finitude, your isolation, your loneliness. Always saying that happiness is around the corner. But how many corners have I turned? Yeah. Always wait, now you postpone happiness. Come, ye ho jayega, I'll become happy. This will happen, I'll be happy. It can be an event in your life or a small thing that you have picked up, whatever it can be. If I get a new car, I'll be happy. But if you get a new car, you're afraid to drive it properly. Why? Scratch girega to. If the children in the building sit on top of it and spoil it, hota hai na? I mean, they're kids, yeah, they're playing. They jump on top of the car. A dent ho gaya. You, a dent on me. So when you start getting comfortable with your car, when you scratch it a few times, then you're okay. Until then, you're not okay. So what I'm trying to say is, your happiness is post that, post an event. When I find the person of my dreams, I'll be happy. Yeah, until you get married. Then after that, you all know what it is. I don't have to say anything. No, there are some happy marriages also. So, this question of samsara we are trying to get free from. At the same time, there is no denying the fact that there are more moments of happiness, there are moments of joy, a moment of ecstasy. And I don't mean it coming out of a tablet. So, all this is there in life. So, somewhere it is there. Thank God it keeps us going. Keeps us going. Now here is where, when you stop trying other things or you are got a little bit disappointed with other things or said, "Nahi yaar, all those things doesn't work," then you start trying all the odd things. From standing on your head onwards, you know. It's good standing on your head, right? You get a different perspective of life anyway. I mean, I'm not against yoga, okay? Hey, I went all the way for a yoga festival now to talk as senior teachers there. Now what they? Not against yoga. But I'm just saying that until finally you stumble into the Gita, the Upanishad, what is known as Vedanta, it says, hey, you're fine as you are. Yeah. Now all this problem is centered around not knowing who you are, what you are. So the search for that fulfillment, for my freedom from these existential issues, becomes a search for knowing myself. This shift is necessary. There's no more connected with what I am doing, because all doing will give me a finite end which will have its own finite benefits. But what I am looking for is not that. I haven't had so much of that. That's okay. I will still go out and have a cup of tea. That's a different thing. But I am looking for more. So, if it is knowledge of the self that you are seeking, then, of course, I am taking a few things for granted here, because all of you have been exposed to Vedanta. At least 99% of you have been exposed to Vedanta sometime or the other. or on a regular basis you are being exposed. If self-knowledge is what you are seeking, it is important to see what is knowledge, how does it take place. So the question of epistemology becomes important. And very often, your sense of philosophy, the philosophy that you subscribe to, including science, because science has its own philosophy, will determine what you accept as knowledge. And your understanding how that particular means of knowledge gives you knowledge. Can't avoid this. Which will also bring us to the question, what is knowledge? So what is knowledge? If I were to ask you, what is knowledge? You'll give me probably a few answers. Probably those will come from a scientific paradigm, because that's the most common paradigm today, and rightly so. In Vedanta is very clear. We say knowledge yourself. You are nothing but consciousness. Without consciousness, nothing happens. So all knowledge happens because you are consciousness. I'll come back to this statement. Hold on to this statement. I'll come back to this and elaborate it and all that. Whereas if you're looking from the paradigm of science, etc., now science is a very materialistic paradigm, where the question of knowledge, consciousness, etc., is an evolute of matter. So once matter has evolved to become a sentient being, when it has started manifesting life, then you gain knowledge. This is the, in short, in a nutshell, the scientific approach. I mean, I can elaborate this, but it will take, then you will need 3 camps, not 1 camp, okay? Yeah. So the whole question of discussing epistemology starts only with a certain fundamental assumption that we are all human beings and we gain knowledge. The animals also gain knowledge, but that we are not going to discuss, because you don't find a dog wanting moksha. It wants actually, but doesn't know how to spell it out and go after it. Dogs also want moksha. It manifests itself only as avoidance of pain and seeking pleasure. That much we share with the animal kingdom, because all of us also do the same. Avoiding pain, seeking pleasure. This is common. So with this assumption that it is human beings, see, all these are the paradigms of the frame of reference that you are creating in this paradigm. That we are human beings and we are seeking knowledge. Okay? So then, if you approach it this way, then the fundamental means of knowledge will become what? What is common? What is the base for everything? For knowing anything? Perception. Because without perception, you cannot have any other. Okay. In terms of sight, sound, smell, touch, taste. Our senses are fivefold, therefore perception becomes fivefold. And in perception, let us start with the visual perception, because that's the most common, that's the most basic. Most of us depend on that more than anything else. How does visual perception takes place? Now you have a scientific paradigm where your eye is compared to a camera, because there is a lens in front. The eye was not designed from the camera was designed from the eye, okay? I mean, yeah, certain things have to be clear of. And there is a screen at the back, and light is reflected. It falls on the screen, the retina, and your brain interprets it and sees an image. The basic idea of perception based on photometry, on the study of light. That is the paradigm. The perception paradigm is based on the study of light, because it is also a universal human experience. If there is no light, you will not perceive. If it is pitch dark, you wouldn't perceive. So, what dominates the idea of perception is the photometric model, the model of light. Therefore, we will say in Sanskrit, we had our old so-called scientific approach, where they also postulated an atomic theory, etc. It is called the Nyaya Vaisheshikas. They had some type of a dialectical atomic theory, but the idea of, like how in the West they claim, the idea of atom was first thought of by the Greek philosophers. Okay. So here we say, oh, Anu and all. Not Anu is nickname for Anuradha. Okay, that's different. That Anu means younger one. Anuja. And nickname is Anu. This Anu is something very small. So the idea of Anu, Paramanu, etc. was there in ancient India by the Nyaya Vaisheshikas. Okay. They also follow this materialistic model, the photometric model, and say Indriya Sannikarsham Jnanam. When the sense organ is in contact with an object through light, etc., you always need a medium, through a perception takes place. It seems to be correct, and it works in most cases. But the Vedantin questions that. He says, hey, if that was true, how do you explain error? How do you explain erroneous perception? What is there was rope, you mistook it to be a snake. That is because light was not clear. I accept that light not being enough was a contributory factor, I accept. But that destroys your photometric model. Why? If your camera was photographing and all the lights went off, what will come on the screen? A dark, vague image, right? Will I appear something else? I will still be seen, but not clearly. So similarly, if in dark light, in low light, I saw a rope and you are applying only the photometric model. What should your brain say? Unclear image, unclear image, unclear image. Not enough light, low light, low light. Like your camera phone say that, no? Low light. Yeah. Then the flash gets automatically turned on. I know last 2 days back, I was trying to photograph something in low light. I wanted the low light, but the flash kept coming on. Now I don't know how to turn it off. Old school. How to turn off the flash and then photograph. By that time it is too late. Event is over. Now kya karega? The event that I wanted to capture in low light is gone. So I said, okay, next time dekhega. So, your eye should report to you unclear object. But what you are seeing is a snake. Remember, this is very important. You are not wondering, is that a rope or a snake? You are saying it is a snake. There is a big difference from wondering what is that image, what is that thing, which is fine. Low light, because of that photometric image is not clear. The image on your retina is not clear. So the brain is questioning, what is that image? That would be fine. But I am talking about those cases where you actually see a snake. When you see a mirage in the desert, when you mistake a seashell to be a coin, you can give 100 cases. What happens then? Oh, that is because you are afraid of snakes. No, I am not afraid of snakes. I come from Mallu land. We worship snakes. We don't have fear of snakes in Mallu land, do we? There's some Mallus around here. You're not scared of snakes. Every house there is a Sarpaka, a place where snakes are worshipped. In my village home, there are 3 temples dedicated to snakes. And I sometimes go for a walk in the evening, and the snake is also going out for a walk. Nice hooded cobra. So it goes and I go, it's nice. We have a nice companionable relationship. We are not afraid of snakes, we love it, we worship it. Therefore, your psychological assessment that because of fear of snakes, not tenable. No, because you love snakes. So you are saying my emotion affects my perception. Are you saying that? Because if you are saying that, your photometric model goes out of the window. Because fear, love, etc. are emotions. And you are saying these emotions will affect the interpretation of light. That means there is more to perception than just an image forming in your retina. In fact, I don't know whether you have seen this WhatsApp message going around, where at first glance, what is written doesn't sound like English. But if you just go through without thinking too much, you'll be able to read the whole passage. Ask the youngsters. The dictionary spelling has to change now. So one young girl sent me a message, LOL. I said, don't pull my leg. It is not lots of love, it means laugh out loud. Uncle, you know that? I said, yeah, I know that. What are you laughing at? Yeah. But the photometric model is no more valid then. I mean, it has some base, okay. So in the Vedantic way of looking at perception, all that eyes have to be there, light has to be there, we accept all that. But we add something to it. What is that? that for every object outside, okay, let us say, let me give you the definition of perception in English. Of course, I won't define the way Sanskrit defines, it will become too complicated for you all at this stage. I am basing my talk on two books, Vedanta Paribhasha and Siddhanta Lesha Sangraha, but I am avoiding all the technicalities, keeping it simple. Okay? Some of you have come to my Vedanta Paribhasha talks. Okay? Few of you were there. Okay? It's a bit complicated or technical. So in Vedanta we say, what is perception? Yat sakshat aprokshat. What is directly seen? What is directly evident without the necessity for anything? That is jnanam, knowledge. What is directly seen without the need for anything? What is directly known without the need for anything else? Yourself. You are self-evident, no? When you say I am, what does it mean? I exist and I also know I exist, no? How do you know that? How do I know that? Can you give any reason? How do you know whether you are there or not? How do you know? Because I see you, I am there. What is that? Because I see you, I am there. How can that be? Because I am there, I see you. Because you may be here, but if I am not here, I won't see you. Simple, Swamiji. You know, I am married, therefore I am here. Girls are very smart. They don't marry non-existent guys. That is true. With existing guys there are problems, then what about non-existent guys? At least there will be no problem. That much will be there. It's self-evident, Baba. It's self-known. You don't need any proof. That is fine, but it doesn't explain the perception of this object here in front of me. This Mr. Mike that is there, how do I know that? So the Vedanta is simple. This I, the knowledge, consciousness, is manifest in a threefold manner. The consciousness, I, how I am consciousness, etc. later on when we talk about Shabda Pramanam, we'll elaborate that. Is manifest in a threefold manner. What is that? Existence, consciousness conditioned by an object. Existence, consciousness conditioned by a mind, pramata, the knower. Existence, consciousness conditioned by an object, the object of knowledge. And existence, consciousness conditioned by a particular thought, a given thought. By three, I'll tell you. So now, this object is perceived when there is a connection established between the pramata, the consciousness conditioned by the person, by the mind, and the consciousness conditioned by the object. How does that happen? Here we can partially accept the scientific paradigm. Light is reflected, etc. we can accept. But for every object outside, there has to be a relevant thought. And what you objectify is the thought, not the object. Because the thought is internal. You see the thought, not the object. In classical Vedanta, they had a slightly different theory. That the mind actually goes out through the eyes. The mind goes out through the eyes, takes the shape of the object, then perception takes place. Now that is difficult to prove. You can't prove that. There is a theory presented. You can't prove that scientifically. Though there are some studies being done in the Far East where they are examining how martial artists can combat blindfolded. Because when we do that, we actually see the hand moving. It seems just like a blur of light or this. You are blindfolded, okay? There is no light entering your eyes. There is no light entering. But you see a flash. You see a light coming in. And you block, you avoid. All this happens. But all that is restricted to advanced level of martial arts. When you are actually going into combat blindfolded. Combat with open eyes is difficult for people to master. Okay. Yeah. It takes years to master combat with your eyes open. Then blindfolded combat. And to an extent, blindfolded combat is also done sometimes by just intuitive perceptions. Just guessing out. Good guesswork, because you are listening to the sound, the sound of the hand moving through the air, because hands move fast, hands and legs will move fast. Therefore, there will be some friction with the air. The faster the object moves, the greater the friction, so you will hear it, you will sense it. That's fine. But apart from that, when you actually start seeing, so there is some experimentation going on. So until that becomes clear, we can't look at it scientifically. Some experimentation is on. But this was the theory. Whether we accept that theory or not, one thing is definite. This much is definite, can't be challenged. That's what, that for every thought, every object outside, there has to be a relevant thought inside your mind. And what you see is, you see the thought. So, if there is insufficient light and you're seeing a rope there, unlike an inanimate camera or even a camera guided by artificial intelligence as we have today, is not going to say, your mind is not going to remain without concluding. So mind will conclude based on certain similarities, etc. Based on a psychological reason. All that will come in now, later. Because there is ignorance of what is there, and my pramana perception is not working properly, because there is insufficient light, my mind is interfering, etc. I can jump to a conclusion that it is a snake. In fact, what I do is I project a snake there. My mind assumes the form of the snake, not the form of the rope. It assumes the form of a snake. How will I see it? It assumes that form. Therefore, photometry is not enough. The play of light is necessary. Nobody is saying play of light is not necessary. That much of science we can happily accept. But memory also influences your perception. Because if you come from a culture where you have not seen an object before, even if you see it, you won't know what it is. I don't know whether anybody has tried to do some exercises to remove their spectacles, to get rid of this. It's called eye yoga and all, Sampurna Trust.
Laser.
Not laser, I'm talking about exercise based. Laser, of course, that's available. But exercise based. There they actually train your mind to work on the memory part. Where something looks similar, you can assume the thing.
They do that.
It's all mind training only.
Swamiji,
Of course, and training some movement of the eyes.
I had my cataract operation.
Yeah. They train the muscles a little bit.
My eyes for short.
Hmm?
I had my cataract operation. The lens fitted is for a short distance.
Yeah, yeah.
The other one
See-
for a long distance, so I don't need.
So that part of it is there, but apart from that, this memory orientation is also there in that. The part of getting your, what do you call these muscles, doctor? Huh? Yeah, those muscles that extend and contract the lenses. Apart from training that, because that's one thing you don't exercise. Do you ever exercise? You exercise these muscles. Do you ever exercise your eye muscles? No. Yeah, so various exercises plus your memory input into perception. That's why sometimes you can mistake an F for a P. Na? The alphabet F or P can be mistaken for each other. Why? Your memory plays a part in it. Or how do you read THKS as thanks? Yeah, you read that. All those messages that you get, especially if you have youngsters on your WhatsApp groups. There are all those messages. You don't need it. After some time, you don't need it to second guess it. You read smoothly. Why? Your memory takes over. That word, the sound resembles this word and takes over. So mind plays a big role in perception. Yeah. Which probably science can do. Some biologists can do some more research on it, not me. I am fine with this because I have accepted this. That without the mind you won't see. Without the mind, you will not see. Why do I say that? How many of us have experienced this? You're sitting lost in thought. Khayalo mein. Your friend walks in. Light is reflected from his body onto your retina. It has gone to your brain. All that has happened. But you are lost in thought. Your mind is elsewhere. And the guy comes in front of you and says, "Hey, khayalo mein." I'm sorry, I was lost in thought. What were you thinking of? Something. I mean, how can you say what we are thinking of? It could have been what an idiot this guy is, for all you know. Whatever, you were lost in thought. Your mind was gone elsewhere. You didn't see, even though all the photometric conditions were satisfied. How do you explain that? So, the Vedantic point holds that the consciousness conditioned by the object, the consciousness conditioned by the pramata, the knower, the mind, the knowing mind, is connected by the consciousness manifest in a thought. With the help of light, with the help of sound, all that you can talk about. With the help of your tongue, taste, all that. That's all fine. But the question of that consciousness comes into the picture. Thought comes into the picture. So for all your practical purposes, yeah, if you can't see very clearly, don't say you must work on your mind. Go to the doctor, get a pair of glasses like how I did. Though probably, I don't know, if I could spend the time and the effort necessary, like how the martial artists who do combat without this blindfolded do, I would be able to. Probably, I don't know. Time high? Do you have time? 4 hours a day practice? 5 days a week? 4 hours. Not much, only 4 hours. No time for that. Wear it. Job done. Yeah, wear it, job done. Yeah. So be pragmatic about it, that's okay. But this is the understanding. That even whether you are wearing specs, not wearing specs, or whatever the light is there, not there, if that thought was not there, you would not see. Now this is with respect to perception of outside things. What about perception inside? Hey, do you like this guy? Yeah, he's a nice chap, I like him. How do you know? How do you know? This is my thought, I have feelings. My feelings I know, I like. I have very likable feelings towards this person, like him. Oh, you love him? No, I have not yet become that much. I like the guy. Like. How do you know? Obviously, you saw your mind. In simple terms, we will say Sakshi Vetyam. It is known to you, the witness, the knower, without the necessity of a sense organ. Okay? That's a simple way of putting it. But how do you say perception has taken place? Okay, there's a little bit more advanced understanding of perception. He'll say, when consciousness conditioned by the object is where? Inside, no. Consciousness conditioned by the knower, and the consciousness in a thought, all that are at one and the same place. I like this person. The person is inside now. So the consciousness conditioned by the object is where? Here. The thought of the liking feeling about that person is here. The feelings of like conditioned by the consciousness that is conditioned by the feelings of like toward this person, right here. The knower consciousness, where is it? Right here, I. The knowing is where? Here itself. For all of them are in one and the same place. Knowledge will take place. The biological science does not bother about this. Psychology tries to do some study about this. But biological sciences don't bother about perception of these. Does anyone who's into the field of medicine, have you studied anything on this? How you see your thoughts? Because in science, there is nothing like mind. Doctors here. What is mind? Equals to brain. So the information organizing aspect of the brain will be taken as mind, isn't it? So we ask them, what is mind? Never mind. Okay. But Swamiji, there is no proof that there is mind separate from brain. Which proof are you asking for? Tell me that. When you say proof, understand these things. You are looking for something to fit into a certain paradigm. Therefore, I should be able to see the mind, but you're seeing your thoughts. No, that's not enough. Because science is guided by the existential philosophies, where if you have to say something exists, you should be able to, it should be available for your 5 sense organs, or at least one of them. Sight, sound, smell, taste, feel, touch. Any one of them. Mind is not available for any of them. Therefore, it doesn't exist. Come again? You have a mind, no? Because you are arguing with me logically, or at least some logic is there. But you are saying there is no mind because it doesn't fit these 5 factors. How can that be? Yeah, how can that be? Okay, let me ask the medical profession another question, because it's important to understand these things. What are you studying when you take an EEG of the person? Only brain functions, not mind? Okay. It is brain function. So that means an EEG of mind will be unique, different from any other EEGs here. Correct or not? Hey, medical profession, come on. 3 doctors here, no? And 1 aspiring doctor. So, there is a very interesting case of split personalities, where they did EEG when the different personality was occupying the same brain. And they found the EEGs differed. There's only a couple of recorded cases like this. Not enough to make a statistical conclusion. But how many cases of split personalities do you see in the first place? Very few. In fact, in most psychiatric practices, how many cases will you see? A psychiatrist may not have seen more than 1 or 2 in 30 years of practice. Even that may not be there. I have come across 1, even though I am not a psychiatrist. But these are the things that prove within the scientific paradigm that there is a mind apart from the brain. The usual comparison is the brain is like a computer. If it is like a computer, then you need a software driving it. The software is the mind. That is why in time brain transplants will be possible. In time it will be possible, I am sure about it. Now the question is, what will be the personality in the transplant? Most people will say, the brain will guide it. They used to say that about heart transplant also. That I'll get all the emotions of that person whose heart I'm receiving. They used to say that once upon a time. Except a few logical people like us said, no, that won't be true. See, Vedanta is very clear. It says mind is separate, so why should I get that guy's feelings? There may be some residual things because of the heart, okay, which some people have talked about in a transplant. I found myself more compassionate afterwards and things like that. Then what if I get a criminal heart, I should become a criminal? That is not true. That has been disproved. But the brain, they are saying, no, the brain will rule. Previous was a poetic delusion. This is a scientific delusion. The poetic delusion that the heart emotions will come was a poetic delusion. This probably will become a scientific delusion. We will see. For the younger people here, probably you'll see it happening in your own lifetime. Possibility in the next 10 years? Quite possible. 10, 15 years is quite possible. Already some work is done on that area. A lot of work is being done. So we will see. So if the emotions are not passed on by the heart, why should the thinking be passed on by the brain? Simple as that. Yeah. In the Vedanta way of looking at it, a brain is an organ through which your mind can function. Because mind requires a sophisticated organ to function through. Brain is an organ like that. Yeah. Even your sense organs. The seat of the sense organs in Vedanta are where? Those who have done all those texts with me? Or with Swamini? Where is your sense organ of the eye? Physical body or Sukshma Sharira? Sukshma Sharira means what? It is in the mind. Then what about this eye? That's called a Golaka, a physical counterpart for that sense organ to function through. So just because my eye is destroyed doesn't mean I have lost my ability to see, except because instrument being gone. So if there is a transplant, etc. possible, I'll see again. That is why even the blind can dream in color. People are born blind. Recorded scientifically. So the importance of the mind in perception. Even if you don't take much, take this much from it. That for every thought outside, for every object outside, there has to be a relevant thought inside. It's the thought which connects the two states of, the two manifested consciousness. One manifests as the object, the other manifests as the subject. And that connection gives you the knowledge of perception. Nayayikas talk about Indriya Sannikarsham Jnanam. That's similar to science because they followed a scientific model. How old is the Nayayikas? They were Nayayikas in the time of Ramayana. Atomic theory was propounded there. Yes, a dialectical atomic theory. Not a scientific atomic theory, a dialectical atomic theory. I am making it very clear. I am not one of those guys who will say, first head transplant was Ganesha. I am not the guys who say that, okay? Yeah. We are talking about dialectical models. That we are assuming it's only a dialectical model and it is not a scientific model because there is no verification available. There is no scientific experiments available in India. Meaning no documentation available. No documentation available. How do you expect documentation? When all of Nalanda and Takshila, etc. was burned down, where all the documents were there. Whatever documentation were there in our universities, all that was burned down. Not assigning blame, just talking about facts. If it's burned down, you will lose documentation. Yeah. So, there is no documentation available. Therefore, now we take it, they are dialectical models, we don't know. Though, there is this Infinity Foundation which is trying to publish papers. In fact, they have published over 1,000 papers of some of the scientific models that were there in India before. There is a course in IIT which talks about science in ancient India, where Indian Institute of Technology, Mumbai, there is a course, credit course, which talks about science in ancient India. It is taught by a person whom many of you have seen Professor Ramasubramanian, whom we invited for the last Vedic festival. It's taught by him. Therefore, it is not completely dialectical. There are certain models also available. Everything is not dialectical. Anyway, the atomic theory, if you want to take it as dialectical, take it as dialectical for the time being. But the fact remains, it was propounded. So they also followed the scientific model of photometry, etc. Not good enough. As for the arguments that we saw in this class, we know for sure that the mind has to be involved in it. Now the question comes, with this perception, can you know the truth? Because that's the major question we have. With this perception, with this modified idea of perception, can you know the Atma, the self? Because it can't be, because this model of perception also based on what? The duality of subject-object. Correct or not? Trikuti actually. Threefold. Subject, object and the connecting thought. Subject, object and the connecting thought is based on that. Whereas Atma is both the subject and the object and the thought in between. Therefore, perception will not really make you understand the self. Though, in Vedanta Paribhasha and Siddhanta Lesha Sangraha both, he says for one who knows the truth is direct perception. That, hold on for that, I will come back to it at the end of the whole, after I have dealt with all the 6 pramanas, I will come back to how Atma is directly seen by you, as I. I'll come back to that, okay? Right now I'm just introducing that possibility and keeping it like that. Then the basic idea that perception is not enough to know yourself because it is based on the threefold difference. The pramana is based on subject, object and the connecting thought. And Atma is not dividable. The manifested consciousness can be divided. The manifestation of consciousness in my mind can make it knower, object, etc. But the pure consciousness we are talking about as the Atma doesn't have these divisions. Divisions are apparent. Because of that, since it doesn't have the divisions, there is no way perception can give you self-knowledge. To quote the Katha Upanishad says, Paranchikani vyatirnak swayambhu paran pashyati nantaratma. All your sense organs. And we are talking about the golakas in the not the golakas in the body. We are talking about the sense organs in the mind, which functions through the organs in the body. They are all focused on other than myself. Therefore, they will see things other than myself. They won't recognize me. They are not meant for that. Therefore, perception cannot be a means for knowing myself. It's only a means for knowing everything other than myself. Any questions or clarifications? पूछ लो नहीं तो भूल जाएगा. Yeah. I'm hard of hearing, so you'll have to speak louder.
Thought comes first or object will come first?
Thought comes first or object comes first? Correct? That's your question. Well, for the thought to come, the object has to be there. Okay. If you're talking only of perception, okay? Because it's there, I see it. Because something is there, this consciousness manifests as an object. There is consciousness manifests as the knower. These two things are there. Correct? Then I have to establish a connection through my thought. So the thought has to come later. As far as perception is concerned, thought has to come later.
Sometimes something may not be.
Huh?
Sometimes something may not be there at all. I may still see it.
How will you see without a thought? Tell me.
Some thought has, no object is not there.
Object is not there. Then you're imagining an object. That's based on your memory. Now, this brings you this question.
One more doubt.
Yeah.
What is the dialectical model?
What is?
Dialectical model.
A dialectical model means a model that is based on a philosophy without backing it up with scientific research. For the time being, take it like that. Now, this brings you to the very definition of what is a pramana. Pramakaranam, pramanam. That which gives you knowledge is called pramana. Now, which means what? What gives me knowledge is a pramanam. If what gives me knowledge is a pramanam, can I put imagination as pramanam? Imagination is not knowledge. No? I am sitting here. One second. I am sitting here and imagining there is a snake. Is that knowledge of the snake or imagination of a snake? And imagination is based on memory. Is memory knowledge? It is knowledge was gained before. I am remembering it now. Can you see that? So memory is also not knowledge. Therefore, you will clarify your definition. Pramakaranam is pramanam, true, but you will add a few words to make it precise. Abhadita anadigata jnana janakam pramanam. Abhadita anadigata jnana janakam pramanam. Those who want to write it down. Abhadita anadigata jnana janakam pramanam. Jnana janakam. Abhaditam, that which cannot be negated. That means what? The snake that you saw on the rope can be negated. Therefore, it is not knowledge. It's only a mental projection. But the rope that you see on the rope itself, it cannot be negated. Therefore, it is jnanam. Abhaditam. Anadigatam. Not seen before. That word will take care of memory. That will also prevent overlapping of pramanas. Anadigatam. Not gained by any other pramana. Or not gained before. Both meanings are applicable in anadigatam. Therefore, memory will go out of the picture. Imagination will go out of the picture. Abhaditam, anadigatam. Jnana janakam. Jnanam, knowledge. Janakam, that which gives birth to, is pramana. So, based on all that we seen today, you cannot be sitting down and saying, by perception, external or internal, I have known the Atma. External perception or internal perception. Why? Because perception involves the threefold divisions. And because that is not there, Atma is not an object of perception. Therefore, Atma cannot be objectified because not available for perception. Therefore, the study of the Atma cannot become scientific. It's a very valid discipline of knowledge. But you can't, everyone likes to use the word, it is scientific or not scientific. It is not scientific. Because science is for that you can objectify. Therefore, by trying to make the Vedanta scientific, you are doing a disservice to Vedanta. Forget disservice, you don't know what you are talking about. That is like saying Vedanta is the science of reality. Sounds nice. Doing a disservice to Vedanta. It is as foolish as saying grace is the Bible for the surgeon. Will the doctors be happy with that statement? Okay. Gray is an author who has written this beautiful book, magnum opus, on anatomy. Muscle, structure, bones, ligaments, whole work is there. It's phenomenal work. But to call it the Bible? Huh?
Yeah,
Idiotic.
it is called the Bible.
But it is idiotic. It is idiotic. Why? Because that's a scientific work. It is not dogmatic statements by some prophet. Can you see that? They say it. That's why I use that example. I know they say it. I have enough doctor friends from whom I heard all these things. They say it, but it's foolish to say it. Grey is, it's all black and white and grey, All questions about anatomy are answered in black and white and grey. You can say that. But to call it the Bible about going to heaven. Even if you take it, okay, let us take it as valid. I am not against any religion. Let's take it as valid. You do all that thing, you'll end up in heaven. Okay, fine, accept it. But the Bible is not scientific. If the Bible is not scientific, why should the grace be Bible? Not. It's foolish to say that. At least there you can call it Arthavada. Why? The term came up at a time when religion had to sanction science. There's a time when religion had to agree and say, yes, that's acceptable. Only then science could be valid. That's why Copernicus, etc. was thrown behind the bars. No? So now today, science has to say religion is right or Vedanta is right. Go fish. We are a separate body of knowledge. We are dealing with something different. Yeah. So it's like the scientist telling me, economics is not scientific. And the economist turns around and says, okay, let me see how your science works when I cut your funding. Each is a different body of knowledge. Each is a different body of knowledge. We need not step on each other's toes. Why? Abhadita, anadigata, jnana janakam. That anadigatam comes into the picture. You don't, because of that, you don't step on each other's toes. Each is independent by itself. There are a few more ideas about perception, but we'll come back to that later after I have handled some more of the pramanas. Because whether it's independent, dependent, all that question will come up. Okay? Sata pramanam, parata pramanam va, all those things are there, which we will deal later. So up to now, any questions? I think this was a good enough dose, no? First session ke liye. Quite good enough.